Rookie Season 2, Episode 13. I actually don't know what the name of this episode was, so let's call it Nolan Has a Brother. This was a kind of I just had fun with this episode. I love that Pete Davidson shows up as Peter Nolan, aka John Nolan's brother, half brother, which we got reminded of repeatedly after Nolan finds out that his deadbeat dad had passed away and left him his, I think he said a 91 Chevelle, but I don't think that date lines up, so whatever. It was a blue car. People like blue cars. Nolan got a blue car. So we get to see Nolan interacting with his brother, and it was just kind of interesting because they're totally seemed like polar opposites, and it kind of comes out over the episode that their dad had been really terrible to Pete. There was a kind of a deadbeat dad showing up drunk or getting drunk at his baseball games and just not being that great of a dad. Whereas Nolan, he left Nolan when Nolan was 10, and Nolan always thought and blamed himself for his dad leaving and thought it was something he did wrong. And this whole time thought that, he should have done something to try to get his dad back in his life, when actually maybe having his dad in his life wouldn't have been the best thing. So they kind of had some fun little interactions. Pete kept stealing the car back from Nolan, and like we see the Chastity, the stripper who had popped up on Nolan's case that was going on this episode, ends up like dating Pete, and then in the end they run off to Tempe together. I just kind of thought it was fun, and I feel like that's a character that we could see come back. It was I liked the little dynamic between Pete and John. So yeah, and then also on top of that, we see John Nolan finally asks Grace, his long time ago girlfriend, out on a date. So they go out on a real awkward date, and then we all saw Pete gets involved in the middle, stealing the car again, and so interesting to see how that goes. I was a little bit thrown off earlier in the season where Nolan was in his other relationship. I can't remember the lady's name at this point in time, but it was all of a sudden like pretty obvious that they were going to go with Grace as the new love interest, and then that story just like wham bam thank you ma'am was all over, and now we've been working towards John and Grace for the whole season, so that was kind of cool. The other big thing from this episode was Tim Bradford getting 8th on the sergeant's exam, which basically sets him up for a detective position at some point in time. He even has the captain say that he could pull a few strings to get him a job right away, and at the end of the episode we see Bradford turn it down because he's got unfinished business training Lucy Chan. Yeah, I like sort of Bradford's whole character arc that he's gone through. I do think that I'd be okay with him leaving the show either at the end of this season or even over the next couple weeks, because we've really seen him change quite a bit. He came in as the big hard ass, and now we sort of see that he's got some soft spots and he's willing to accept help from Lucy and willing to change and adapt. And I've just enjoyed his character, even though initially he was the character that when he came on screen, I just do a little eye roll, like, oh God, this stereotypical drill sergeant type character. So I'm very happy with what they've done with him, what he's gone through, and I think it would be kind of nice to see him, get his promotion and graduate on to the next stage of his life and either leave the show or have his role changed within the show. I think both options would be pretty cool, and I'd be just kind of happy to see something good happen for him in the end. The last little story we had was Wesley and and his mom getting thrown in jail, which kind of just came out of left field and was really weird. I don't entirely know why they threw that in there. We've really seen Angela Lopez kind of slide into the background really since we returned from winter break. So I don't know if there's a unrelated to the show reason for that, or what's going on there. If the show's just kind of not going to focus on her as much, but they still keep trying to do more things with Wesley. They were kind of building up his whole story and making him a more prominent character this entire season. And then we see him and his mom kind of have their little thing today. It was kind of interesting to watch. Basically, his mom, basically dismissing him as a lawyer. Telling him, yeah, like I need to get a real lawyer. And then in the end, comes full circle back to Wesley, and he says, "No, Mom, you need a criminal lawyer." So that's it for this week's episode of The Rookie. This was I just felt this was kind of like a more of a fun episode for me, not as serious. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had our crazy serial killer Lucy trapped in a barrel episode, so now we're getting a little bit lighter for a little while here, and I'm interested to see just what sort of things they start to build up and ramp up towards the end of the season as we progress here. All right, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.